She paid for first class. She had the receipt. And still, they pulled her out of her seat, right before everyone. They didn't ask questions. They didn't check the system. They just looked at her cardigan, canvas tote, and makeup-free face, and decided she didn't belong. The flight crew laughed. A man tossed her a dollar bill, and she said nothing. But 5 minutes later, the most powerful man in tech walked onto that plane, not to speak for her, but to expose every single one of them. What happened next didn't just go viral. It changed the airline industry. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Alive Stories. Today's story is about a simple woman denied a first-class seat. Then her billionaire husband shows up. Let's get started. Claire Hughes Bennett adjusted the strap of her canvas tote as she stepped forward in the boarding lane at Gate B26 Logan International Airport. The scanner beeped green. Boarding Group 1, she said softly, holding her phone steady. The gate agent glanced up, then paused. Her gaze flicked from Claire's face to her cardigan. Jeans, tote bag, and shoes. Then back to the phone. I'm sorry. Ma'am, are you sure this ticket's not borrowed? Claire blinked once. It's mine. A line had already formed behind her. A man in a Patagonia vest craned his neck. She's holding things up. The gate agent cleared her throat. This is for seat 1A. That's first class. I'm aware. Now, a few heads turned. A woman in heels whispered to her husband. Claire remained still. She wasn't confrontational, but she wasn't moving. The gate agent smiled awkwardly. It's just, this kind of ticket usually comes with profile verification. You don't seem to have anything linked, no loyalty number, no upgrade code, no concierge flags. I booked directly. Full fare. More people were watching now. A man 2 passengers back snorted, probably wandered from economy. The guy behind him added, tote bag doesn't scream first class to me. Then came the kicker. A smug-looking man pressed a blazer. Overpriced hair, pulled a crumpled dollar bill from his wallet, leaned around the gate and held it out for the upgrade. Sweetie. Someone laughed. Claire didn't flinch. The gate agent frowned, now visibly uncomfortable. We're going to need to verify your booking manually. Can you just step to the side? I'd like to speak with a supervisor. She said it without raising her voice, just firm enough to require a response. But the agent was already flagging someone over. Security might be faster, Patagonia vest muttered. The supervisor arrived 4 minutes later, khakis, walkie-talkie, tired eyes. He didn't smile. What's the issue? She's claiming 1A. I'm not claiming it, Claire said. I purchased it. Let me see your ID and boarding pass. She handed them over. He studied the screen. Claire Hughes, no TSA pre, no VIP tags. Just a plain ticket. That's correct. A call was made. Another agent came over. The supervisor lowered his voice. But not enough. No known frequent flyer status. Doesn't match the profile type. Maybe it's a comp ticket. Card says Visa debit. So, unlikely. I mean, look at her. Claire caught the glance they thought she wouldn't. She heard it all. Still, she stood there. Finally, the supervisor returned her phone, and there's a mismatch in the profile verification system. We're going to have to reseat you. No, Claire said plainly. The supervisor shifted. Ma'am, we're trying to keep things smooth for everyone. If you could just cooperate, I paid for 1A. It's mine. Not according to our system. Claire didn't argue. She simply repeated, I'd like to escalate this. There's nothing to escalate. You're holding up the boarding line. Phones were out now. Claire could see them angled toward her. Whispered commentary buzzed behind her. Look at her standing there like she belongs. This is ridiculous. Just sitting coach. She probably screenshotted someone else's boarding pass. The supervisor took a breath. We're assigning you to 22C for now. If the seat clears, we'll review again at cruising altitude. He printed a new boarding slip. Claire took it without a word. She walked down the jet bridge alone. As she passed through first class, passengers looked up. The ones who hadn't witnessed the gate scene checked her over just as skeptically. The seat marked a middle-aged man in a gray suit was already filling 1A. He didn't look up. Claire didn't slow. She reached row 22, middle seat, tray table sticky. A kid was already kicking the seat behind hers. She sat, quietly. Next to her, A man in a hoodie and neck pillow smiled faintly. Rough day. She nodded once. People see what they want to see. The guy shrugged. It's only 5 hours. Could be worse. As he returned to his sports podcast, Claire pulled out her phone. One message. 5 words. Activate level 2. She slid the phone into her bag. Then she folded her hands in her lap and looked straight ahead. She wasn't angry. She wasn't rattled. But someone was about to be. Seat 22C wasn't designed for power moves. Claire knew that. Still, she sat with the kind of posture that made the cheap plastic armrest feel like leather. The man beside her had already moved on, earbuds in, eyes closed. But Claire wasn't done observing. 2 rows ahead, a flight attendant leaned in toward a well-dressed couple. Some woman tried to sneak into first. She whispered, "No upgrade," just strolled in like she owned the place. The woman's pearl earring swung as she turned. No way. She had one of those reusable grocery totes. You know the type. Claire exhaled slowly through her nose. She was taking notes mentally. For now, patterns, behaviors, tone, the little ways bias breathes through an organization's skin. This flight wasn't an accident. She had picked Northway Airlines specifically. Their bias record wasn't spotless, and their customer service audit scores were polite fiction. She knew. She helped design those audit metrics back in the early 2000s, back when she was still Claire Hughes, the analyst no one saw coming before. She was the woman behind one of the most successful IPOs in American tech history, before she married Graham Bennett, before she stepped away from the stage. She hadn't used her married name on a public forum in over a decade. Every ticket, reservation, and audit was booked under Claire Hughes. No corporate account, no concierge perks, no assistant, no press team. Her goal was clarity, not comfort. And today I have delivered. 20 years ago, she was the youngest female strategist at Crestview Capital. She outlasted 3 department heads. She tore apart bloated forecasts with a ballpoint pen in a quiet voice. She met Graham at a conference in D.C. He was the only founder who stayed for the Q&A. She was the only strategist who didn't laugh at his AI model. 2 years later, they were married. 4 years after that, Sterling Circuits went public. Claire never chased the spotlight. She didn't need to. She was writing the playbook while others were chasing headlines. But after their company scaled into global markets, she pivoted. She didn't want to chase growth. She tried to fix what the system ignored, so she built Rising Line, an education nonprofit helping women in underserved communities get certified in AI ethics, data privacy, and code security. She didn't just teach women to code. She taught them to lead. A bump of turbulence brought her back. The flight attendant, who had gossiped earlier, walked down the aisle taking drink orders. She stopped at Claire's row. "Ginger ale," Claire said. The attendant gave a tight smile and moved on. No apology, no recognition. Good. She wanted the system to show its face. Her phone buzzed. Encrypted message. A simple update. Observers are logging the Gate B-26 incident. Footage tagged. Witness reports uploaded. Flight log under live review. She'd built a team to run silent audits, all legit. No infiltration. Just real passengers logging real behavior. No announcement, no press, no influencers. And Northway, they were just next on the list. She thought about the dollar bill. That man Blazer guy, he'd made a snap judgment in a public insult, but he wasn't the anomaly. He was the rule. Gate staff hadn't hesitated. The supervisor didn't question the override. No one asked why someone might fly first without makeup, status tags, or designer luggage. They just assumed. Claire had done this test at hotels, banks, and car rental counters before. It always followed the same curve. Step 1, deny legitimacy. Step 2, apply polite resistance. Step 3, remove quietly. But this time, something felt different. Maybe it was the way the flight crew openly mocked her. Perhaps it was how fast they moved to replace her seat. Maybe it was the tone, not just disbelief, but disgust. She took out a small notebook. No branding, just bullet points. Gate agent flag for profiling. The supervisor bypassed the passenger without formal verification. Multiple passengers commented audibly, unprompted. First class reassignment issued without a policy cause. Public humiliation in a federal boarding zone. At the bottom of the page, she wrote bias triggers escalate faster in high-status zones. She closed the notebook. It wasn't personal, but it was going to be public. When she built Rising Line, she knew she couldn't change systems by yelling at them. You had to show them to themselves clearly, undeniably, and with receipts. That's what level 2 meant. The audit wasn't just active, it was going live. Her team had already pulled gate security footage. Her boarding pass timestamps were synced with internal logs. Passenger witness accounts were coming in. She didn't need to tweet, didn't need to call a reporter. All she had to do was wait for the next domino. A voice came over the intercom. Ladies and gentlemen, we're experiencing a brief delay before pushback. Please remain seated as we finalize some last-minute adjustments. Claire looked up. She checked the time. Right on schedule. The plane was still on the ground. The door opens. Engines quiet. Claire sat in 22C, watching the seatbelt sign remain off. The delay wasn't technical. It was calculated. A whisper of motion moved through the cabin. A flight attendant paused mid-walk, touched her earpiece, and backed away toward the galley. Row 14. Is something going on? A man asked. His wife peeked over the seat. Someone just walked onto the jet bridge. Security, I think, Roy. Row 6, an off-duty pilot, sipping from a thermos, leaned toward a steward. You expecting someone? Nope. Everyone's on board. Manifests clean. Then the door opened, and everything stopped. Black sedan, tarmac access. 2 ground agents were standing stiff, not speaking. The man who stepped out didn't need an introduction, not if you'd ever read Forbes, Bloomberg, or watched a tech IPO soar in real time. Graham Bennett, co-founder and CEO of Sterling Circuits, AI defense contracts, infrastructure security, net worth $42 billion. He wore a charcoal suit, no tie, and a dark coat. Calm, efficient, no entourage. He nodded once at the crew at the door. They stepped aside like he'd ordered the plane built himself. Then he walked in straight down the aisle. No announcement, no fuss, just presence. First class stirred. A woman gasped. A man lowered his Wall Street Journal like watching a royalty board. He didn't glance at seat 1C, his assigned seat. He kept walking, past the champagne flutes, past the curtain. Row 10, row 15, row 20. He stopped at row 22. Claire didn't look up at first. She didn't have to. Claire, he said. Now the cabin was silent. She looked up, calm as ever. You're early. They escalated it. Thought I'd handle it personally. He turned to the man in 22D. May I? The guy scrambled out of his seat like he'd been drafted. All yours, sir. Graham sat, straightened his coat, looked around slow, deliberate every aisle eye on him. Flighted crew at the front exchanged looks. A few reached for their phones. A supervisor appeared at the bulkhead. Graham looked at Claire. Want your seat back? She gave a slight nod. They've reassigned it to the wrong person. He stood. I'll fix it. He stepped back into the aisle. The supervisor, mid-aisle, stammered. Mr. Bennett, apologies, we weren't told. You weren't supposed to be told, Graham said evenly. That's the point. The crew gathered like a storm, whispering, shuffling. I'm requesting a 10-minute delay, Graham told the nearest attendant. I need the captain. You want the pilot number, the captain. Let's not confuse titles. They scrambled. Someone up front stood. Excuse me? What's happening? A woman in 3B pulled out her phone. Oh my God, is that? The man in 1A blazer guy, dollar bill guy, was frozen. Graham walked forward slowly, stopped 2 feet from him. Seat 1A, he said. That's my wife's seat. Blazer guy blinked. I was reassigned. They said the original passenger. They lied. The gate agent's voice broke in from the doorway. Sir, I save it. Graham reached into his coat, pulled out a small leather portfolio and handed it to the captain. Who'd just arrived? Inside time-stamped booking receipts, security clearance, a flight profile flagged for privacy, not VIP discreet, all in Claire Hughes' name. This is what happened, Graham said. You flagged her because she didn't look the part. Then you stripped her seat, publicly. No verification, no apology. The captain nodded slowly, jaw tight. We'll make this right. No, Graham said. You'll make it visible. He turned, addressed the whole cabin. His voice didn't rise, it didn't have to. You all watched it happen. The fabric of her coat judged her, not the strength of her character. A few people shifted uncomfortably. You watched her be talked down to, rerouted, and removed. No ID check, no protocol, just an assumption. Because she didn't look like 1A. Phones were out now, filming, posting. Claire stood silently behind him, watching. Graham continued, she is a strategist, an educator, a leader, and this airline treated her like a fraud because she didn't flash designer luggage, makeup, or status. He looked directly at the gate agent. Was her dignity too casual for you? No answer. Good. Let that silence travel with us. He turned to the captain. She'll be in 1A. I'll take 22C. The captain nodded, understood. The man in 1A stood like he'd been called out in court. Didn't say a word. Claire passed him on the way up. She said nothing either. When she sat in 1A, she didn't recline, didn't smirk. She just folded her hands and waited. Captain, Graham Bennett said, calm and composed. I'm requesting 10 minutes before pushback. That'll be enough. The captain, mid-50s, sharp-eyed, didn't hesitate long. Granted, Graham turned and stepped forward into the aisle. No mic, no announcement, just gravity. Every passenger's eyes followed him like gravity. 2. Claire sat in 1A, composed and still. Her presence said nothing, but it demanded everything. You all saw what happened, Graham said to the cabin. You watched my wife be removed from the seat because of her appearance, because her cardigan didn't match your expectations, because she wasn't wearing designer heels or carrying a monogrammed suitcase. The air stiffened. People glanced sideways, uncomfortable. She was judged not by who she is, he continued, but by what she wore. You traded decency for assumptions. 2A. The man with the dollar bill clenched his jaw and looked down. A flight attendant shifted, arms crossed, defensive. Graham opened a leather folder. This is her booking confirmation, he said. Paid in full, booked weeks ago, no upgrades, no points, no perks. Her name is Claire Hughes. She didn't need to shout it to earn her assigned seat. He handed the documents to the captain. The pilot glanced through, nodded once, and returned them. Graham turned back to the passengers. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't argue. Because she's lived this moment before where silence speaks louder than explanation. Someone in row 4 coughed, uncomfortably loud. A woman in 3A slowly zipped up her designer tote. Then Graham zeroed in on the flight crew. I'm holding you accountable. The lead flight attendant stiffened. Sir, we followed protocol. No, you didn't, Graham said, unblinking. You followed your biases. She pressed her lips together. This wasn't about bias. We had concerns. About her shoes, he asked. Her tote bag? Or was it the absence of eyeliner? The youngest crew member, clearly still green, stepped forward. We weren't trying to humiliate her. We thought maybe the seat was an upgrade mistake. You didn't ask. You assumed, he said. And you made her dignity disposable. The smirking attendant from the boarding, now red in the face, added under her breath. This is insane. Graham turned. What's insane is thinking you could humiliate someone in public and walk away like nothing happened. The captain stepped in. You're being relieved, he told the crew. Now. The lead attendant's posture snapped upright. You're firing us over this. I'm protecting this airline from what happens when people like you make someone feel less human at 30,000 feet. They gathered their tablets and rolled their bags with practiced professionalism, but weren't composed. One of them, the older gate agent, paused at Claire's seat long enough to stare. The look was venomous. Claire didn't even blink. Then Graham turned his focus to 2A, the man with the dollar bill. You'll be removed as well, he said. Per FAA policy, passenger conduct and safety. The man looked up. I didn't threaten anyone. You mocked her, loudly, in public. You humiliated someone for sport. That makes you a liability. The man glanced around, hoping someone would defend him. No one did. I already said I didn't mean anything by it, he muttered. It was just a joke. Graham's expression didn't change. No, it was a message, and we heard it. The man looked at the captain. Seriously, the captain didn't blink. This isn't a debate. Collect your belongings. As he stood, he avoided Claire's gaze until he passed her. Then, with forced bravado, he muttered, "Hope it was worth the drama," for the first time. Claire spoke, quietly, calmly, "I hope you remember it." And he would, off the plane. New staff arrived within minutes, focused, quiet, clearly briefed. Graham returned to row 22 without another word. The captain came back on the PA. "We thank you for your patience. This aircraft is now ready for departure." But the flight had already taken off in another way. Within minutes, video of Graham's speech, the crew walk-off, and the Dollar Man's removal hit social media. Clips raced across TikTok. Threads exploded on X. Reels circulated on Instagram with cinematic music in the background. Captions read, "She didn't yell. He didn't threaten. They just stood up." And the world watched. Wrong woman. Claire deserves better. Woman, AC was hers. Her dignity. Has no dress code. Claire said nothing for the rest of the flight. She didn't have to. The world was speaking now. The flight hadn't landed before the internet took off. By the time Northway flight NW2228 hit the tarmac in San Francisco, TikTok was already spinning gold. One clip showed the gate agent questioning Claire. Cut. The next frame showed her silently sitting in 1A. Then Graham's voice, steady and cold. "You judged her by the fabric of her coat." The caption read, "This isn't a story. This is a mirror." Hashtag Claire deserves better. Wrong woman, number 1A was hers. It racked up 2 million views before the wheel stopped. Twitter Chapter X was worse and sharper. A verified user posted a thread. "Let's break this down. Woman boards flight with paid first-class seat. Staff decides she doesn't look right. Stripped of her seat without cause. Her husband, a billionaire, exposes the whole thing in real time. You couldn't script it if you tried." The next tweet, "This isn't about money. It's about class perception. Gender bias. Quiet prejudice that lives in dress codes and gate agent grins." And this time it got caught on camera. Instagram lit up with photo slides. Claire is walking down the aisle to row 22. Graham was standing in the center aisle, folder in hand. The moment the flight attendants were escorted off, a side shot of Claire, head high, hands folded in 1A. Overlaid text, "Dignity doesn't need a microphone. It just needs proof." CNN, Good Morning America, and MSNBC picked it up within 24 hours. In a panel discussion, an anchor asked, "What does it say that a woman needed a billionaire husband to restore her dignity?" Even when she had the receipt, a travel columnist added, "This isn't just about an airline. This is about who we decide belongs in luxury and how fast we default to suspicion when someone doesn't dress the part." A black businesswoman commented on TikTok, "I've been Claire. The tote bag, the side glances, the ticket nobody believes is yours." But she didn't flinch. And that was the power. Then came Claire's statement. No video, no background music, just a quiet post from Rising Line's official account. "I've spent my life helping women take up space where they were told they didn't belong. Boardrooms, labs, classrooms, and yes, airplanes. I wasn't about to give up my seat." Claire Hughes. It was reposted 11,000 times in 6 hours. Requests poured in. The Today Show, NPR. The Cut. She declined them all. No comment. She told her team. Not interested. She told a journalist outside her Boston office. I'm not the product. She told her board. And with every refusal, her credibility grew. She didn't cash in. She didn't brand it. She didn't even post a selfie. She just kept working. At the FAA, things moved faster than usual. They received 137 discrimination-related complaints in 3 days, not just from NW228, but across the country. A retired pilot went on record. This story struck a nerve because it's not rare. It's just rarely documented this well. Internal reviews at Northway were triggered immediately. An anonymous staffer leaked Slack screenshots, jokes, stereotypes, passenger nicknames. Meanwhile, Northway's CEO tried to control the damage. First came the statement, "We regret the discomfort caused to one of our passengers." Twitter tore it apart. Discomfort. Discomfort is turbulence. Discomfort is cold coffee. What Claire faced was institutional insult. Then came the video apology, rushed, stiff, clearly lawyered. He stumbled over Claire's name, called her Mrs. Bennett, despite her flying under her maiden name. It didn't land. A late-night host said it best. He sounded less like he was apologizing and more like someone asking not to be sued. 4 days later, he resigned. Internal memo, no press conference, no LinkedIn farewell. The internet eulogized it with memes resigned due to dress code confusion. At Rising Line, Claire's nonprofit inbox flooded. Donors, mothers, students, survivors. You stood taller than they expected. You didn't just take your seat back, you made space for all of us. I showed the video to my daughter. She said, "She looks like us." Claire's only public appearance was a quiet panel at a local college. One student asked, "What made you stay calm?" Her reply, "If I yelled, they'd say I was unstable. If I cried, I'd be dismissed. If I stayed silent, I knew they'd reveal themselves. So I let them. No applause, just silence, the respectful kind, the kind that meant everyone heard her." By the end of the week, 3 other airlines announced internal reviews of gate training and passenger profiling procedures. A fourth preemptively reached out to Rising Line for consulting. It had gone from viral clip to operational shift. 3 weeks after flight NW2228 headlines quieted, the clips slowed. We saw. The hashtag softened. But something rare happened. The story didn't fade. It evolved. At the offices of Sterling Circuits, Claire and Graham met with their in-house AI ethics team, 2 senior aviation consultants, and 3 board members from Rising Line. No PR staff, no spin doctors, just a whiteboard that read, "The Altitude Initiative." It started with a question Claire posed in the first meeting: what does it take to preserve dignity at 35,000 feet? The answers came quickly. Change how staff are trained, change how passengers are treated, and change who's held accountable when they're not. Within a month, they launched a framework built to move fast, scale wide, and cut through corporate doublespeak. The Altitude Initiative was born, backed by Sterling Circuits Tech plus Infrastructure, Rising Line Bias Education plus Policy Modeling, independent aviation experts from 3 continents. Its first 3 components were clear. 1. Bias response training for airline staff, a revamped onboarding and ongoing certification track built around real-world scenarios. Every new hire had to complete a bias recognition course, plus quarterly refreshers. Flight crews were taught to challenge assumptions without making a scene and how to prevent discrimination before it got filmed. 2. Passenger dignity protocols. A new internal code has been adopted by airlines to ensure respectful communication across the boarding experience. Gate agents and cabin crew had to follow a checklist for every reassignment, every delay, and every passenger conflict. Scripts were rewritten, microaggressions identified, passive policy language removed. 3. Anonymous in-flight staff review tools. Passengers could now give real-time feedback during a flight safely and privately through QR codes posted at each seat. Every crew member was rated not just on service, but also on conduct. An AI system flagged trends in negative behavior before they became viral disasters. The first airline to adopt it, Northway, voluntarily, publicly, in a press conference. Their new CEO announced, "We failed 1 passenger in public. We intend to serve thousands better in private." And with that, they rerouted $10 million from their PR budget to Rising Line reparative sponsorship. No strings attached. Other carriers followed. 2 major U.S. airlines joined within weeks. A Canadian carrier called it an operational must-have. European regulators requested a review of the protocol to implement regionally. The FAA opened a pilot program to explore nationwide adoption. And it was working. Gate complaints dropped. Passenger satisfaction scores ticked up. Staff turnover slowed. For the right reasons. A flight attendant from Phoenix posted for the first time, "I feel like our training matches the world we're working in." Then came the Aviation Inclusion Summit in Chicago. Claire had declined keynote invitations for years. This time, she accepted, standing at a podium in a navy blazer and worn-in flats. She didn't use a teleprompter. She just spoke. Respect doesn't need a dress code. It doesn't need a title or a bag with a logo on it. It just needs a conscience. We don't fly just to get places. We fly because we believe we deserve to be there. And no supervisor, no seat number, no smirk gets to take that away. The room stood for nearly a minute before clapping. No slogans, no hashtags, just people finally hearing something they'd been feeling for years. Rising Line had expanded into a new division by fall, Rising Line Air, dedicated to transportation equity and dignity standards across the travel sector. They didn't just teach code anymore. They taught confidence. Claire didn't become a brand. She didn't sign a book deal. She didn't host a TED Talk. She didn't join a speaking circuit. She just kept showing up, kept doing the work. The shift wasn't sudden. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. You could see it in how gate agents paused before questioning a solo traveler. You could feel it in the new tone of cabin announcements, less robotic, more respectful. You could sense it in the silence of passengers who used to whisper, "She doesn't look like she belongs." The whispers were still there, but now they felt out of place. And that was the beginning of progress. 6 months later, Claire booked another flight, same airline, same route, same seat 1A, same tote bag, same cardigan. Nothing had changed except everything. Logan International Airport hadn't updated its architecture or added a luxury lounge, but the atmosphere felt measured. Gate B26 was quiet when she arrived. No press, no whispers, just boarding groups and scanner beeps. The gate agent, a man in his 30s with a crisp uniform and watchful eyes, scanned her boarding pass. It beeped green. He looked up. Not surprised, not startled, just respectful. "Hughes," he said, gently. "Welcome aboard." Claire nodded once. "Thank you. No commotion, no drama, no assumptions, just a seat, and the right to claim it." As she walked onto the plane, a few heads turned, not in the way they used to, not to assess or judge. Now, it was recognition, not of a scandal, but of a standard, something solid. A woman near the front, young, travel-worn, a baby strapped to her chest, paused as Claire passed. She reached out lightly, fingertips brushing Claire's arm. "Thank you," she whispered. "Because of you. They let me pre-board without looking me up and down." Claire offered a soft smile. "It's your right, not a reward," the mother nodded, emotional. "Still, thank you." The flight attendant in first class greeted her with calm professionalism. She didn't gush, didn't overcompensate. But as she handed Claire a glass of water, she leaned in and said, just above a whisper, "We're still working on getting it right. I just wanted you to know. We remember." Claire replied simply, "Good." She sat down, same posture, same silence. This time, no one questioned it. 2 weeks later, Claire agreed to an anonymous, voice-only interview on a podcast that focused on structural equity in everyday systems. The host asked, looking back, "Would you have done anything differently?" Claire took a breath. The pause was deliberate. "Then every woman has the right to sit where she earned, and no one, no uniform, no rank, no seat number gets to take that away." The host let the moment hang. "You're not naming names, not promoting anything." "Why stay quiet?" Claire replied. "Because dignity isn't loud, it's consistent," and it was. You could feel it in little moments. A brown-skinned woman at a gate who wasn't asked to double-check her seat. A passenger in a hoodie who wasn't second-guessed when he handed over a first-class ticket. Flight crews who paused before deciding that policy meant power. Even the tone in the air changed, less clipped, more deliberate, as if the industry had taken one long, collective breath. Claire continued her work at Rising Line. She didn't post photos of her flights. She didn't wear a cape or carry a message. She flew when necessary and walked on like any other traveler. And in doing so, she reminded the world some revolutions don't need spotlights, just memory and action. She boarded through the same gate on her last recorded trip that year. 1A was empty, waiting. She placed her tote bag beneath the seat in front of her, buttoned her cardigan, looked out the window. No fanfare, no camera phones, just quiet. And one subtle, undeniable truth: she was right where she belonged. Let me know if you'd like a full compiled version of all 7 parts for export or a final polish for publication. Thanks for watching. If this story moved you, if it made you think twice about how dignity is given or taken, do us a favor, like the video, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. This wasn't just about a seat on a plane. It was about who we assume belongs and who we push aside without asking. Claire didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to, because sometimes the quietest stand speaks the loudest. Let's make sure the world keeps listening. See you in the next one.